everybody, and welcome to DC Daily. I'm Hector Navarro, and she's Whitney Moore. Hi, Whitney.
Hello, old chum. How you doing?
Good old chum. Good to see you. Whitney, today is going to be awesome because we no longer have to speculate about our new favorite show. We have the showrunners of Harley Quinn here with us, and they're going to break down the season with us.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and we are throwing all hardball questions. No softballs up in here. These are all going to be really tough. We're going to get them in a lot of trouble. It's going to be great. But before we bring the guys on, here's what's coming up this week on DC Daily. All right, we're here with the brilliant showrunners of Harley Quinn. Welcome to DC Daily, Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacker. Hi, guys.
Hello, boys.
Hey.
How you doing?
So
Good.
excited to talk to you guys today.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. We have been loving the show, so this is a real treat. So, Justin and Patrick, we just watched episode 11 of the new season, A Fight Worth Fighting For, and wanted to kind of pick your brains a bit. Are you guys game?
We are game.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We're going to jump right in. Earlier this season, we had an episode where two fans critiqued the show, and they had some great t-shirts. I love The Last Jedi is not canon. That's great. And now Frank the Plant gave us a recap in season 11. So what made you guys break the fourth wall this season?
Necessity. We literally, our cut came in a little bit under, and we were like, you know what? There's like a lot of stuff going on toward the end of this season, so it feels like we need a recap. Well, who do we have in our cast that would be a little bit unorthodox in the way of a recap? And we landed on Frank, and we got to write a lovely little monologue for JB to do. So it was really a necessity is the mother of invention kind of situation. And yeah, I think it worked out quite well. I don't know that we're going to, necessarily, should we be lucky enough to get a season 3, be doing it all the time. But, it is a serialized show. And, I assume that there's some people out there that are still, finding the show kind of late in the game. And if they jumped in, they'd be real confused without that little recap there. So that's the answer.
Well, we are always happy to hear more Frank the Plant. But you guys keep taking Harley on these journeys. She is learning from her mistakes every single time. Tell us about the journey that you're taking her on.
The first season was about self-discovery and figuring out who she was when she was no longer attached to the Joker. And the second season is really about, all right, now I know who I am. What do I want? The first half of the season, understandably, she thought what she wanted was, this like tangible control over the city and revenge. And then she starts to realize that those are kind of superficial things to want. And maybe she has like a deeper want, which we're now seeing in the second season, which is Ivy. For us, the fun of Harley is like, she's such a up character that it's not a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's like 8 steps forward and 25 steps back. And like, you get a lot more latitude with what you can do with the character. People will buy it because of the way that we've set her up and the way that history has really set her up. So I think, it's a fun journey to go on with her answering the question of what does Harley Quinn want?
One of my favorite characters is a character whom I love to hate, Dr. Psycho. He is the big bad this season. Dr. Psycho, who Darkseid said a slur that not even I would utter. This guy has now become this big bad in this season. Was it always the plan to go that route with Dr. Psycho?
Yeah, I think from the early days of breaking the second season, it made a lot of sense to us for him to sort of undermine the crew and sort of stage a coup. I think we planted seeds pretty early on that he was unhappy, that he felt underutilized. You have the episode where he has to go with King Shark to go get the water filter and comes back only to find out that the mission was kind of a moot point because of what happened in the A story with Harley and the rest of and Ivy. But yeah, he is disgruntled. I mean, he's always been kind of a disgruntled character. But yeah, it made a lot of dramatic sense to us to have someone from the crew end up turning on Harley. And he was always kind of a loose cannon, and I think he is somebody who's driven ultimately by his misogyny. And so, I think a misogynist plus feelings of being undervalued equals bad things. so yeah, it was kind of in the cards from the very early days of breaking the second.
I just got to say too, I laughed so effing hard when we get a flashback of Dr. Psycho not being able to ride the ride, and then he goes, and that's when I decided to hate women. And you're like,
it's one of my favorite jokes in the whole
good.
season. If you like watch like anybody who's like these like hardcore like men's rights online and stuff, when they're like talking about their origin stories, I'm like, none of this tracks. Why are you this is why you hate women? Like, what
so funny.
You guys are doing the Lord's work, making fun of those types of dudes. I so appreciate it. And another villain that we love is Darkseid. He's so funny on this show. So what's your idea of him on this show, and how did you get Michael Ironside to come back for the role?
Yeah, we kind of naturally gravitated toward Michael Ironside because he had done the voice before, and also he's a terrifying person in real life. Very, very imposing. No, he's an amazing storyteller. You get in the booth and he has countless stories about growing up in a bit of a rough area of Toronto, and I think it's just kind of informed his just general mien of a tough guy. So it felt like a natural fit. His voice is pretty legendary. So yeah, that was kind of a no-brainer for us. And then, yeah, just in terms of why we gravitated toward bringing him into the story, it felt like with the Inner Parademons episode, Harley had to do something really drastic to kind of pivot and get her mind off of her feelings for Ivy, right? She's going to busy herself with her work, and she's going to do it in a way that is really, really over the top. So what's over the top? Maybe using a boom tube and going to Apocalypse and trying to appeal to the evil heart of a new god. It felt like that was sort of the extreme that we needed to take Harley to. And yeah, so that's why we gravitated toward Darkseid. What Sam Humphries was doing and John Timms was doing in their Harley run in the comics. We had that book, we had the trade just sitting on our writer's room table. For quite a bit of the season, and just staring kind of at that image of Harley in the Fury armor. We got to do that. Like, that's beautiful. So that was the inspiration for that. We needed to do something big. There, lo and behold, it's right under our noses on the writer's room table.
Guys, let's talk about the love triangle on this show. It is amazing. You have designed some really lovable jerk characters, Poison Ivy, Kite Man, Harley Quinn. Is it tough for you to choose between Kite Man and Harley?
Well, I think that our feeling was we all, when we started it, we were like, look, we don't want to do a love triangle where one of the pieces of the triangle is a piece of crap. You know what I mean? Like where one of them, it's so clear you should hate this third rung of a third angle of the triangle.
Yeah.
So we worked pretty hard to take Kite Man from a character who was, a bit of a douche to like somebody who genuinely loves Ivy, tries to make all of his decisions based on how it will make Ivy feel. So that when you're watching the show, you're not just like, get this guy the hell out of here. Even though some people still are. On Twitter all the time, people are like, get Kite Man the hell out of here. Because our feeling was, we want it to feel messy. Like, we don't want anything in a Harley Quinn show to feel like neat and clean and easily separated from one another. Like, we want it all to be tangled up and messy. We spend a lot of time thinking about where is Harley emotionally, but we try to think of like, where is Ivy emotionally? Like, she hasn't been in a relationship in a long time. When she's opening up and has a lot of trauma from her childhood that she, might, when she's first jumping back out in the dating pool, if someone is just being incredibly kind to her and worshiping her, that sort of like is a balm that is soothing for a little while before you realize, hey, I could do better, or I could find a better fit that is a lot more than just like a cozy blanket, And that's not to say Kite Man isn't a good guy, but our feeling was like Kite Man serves a purpose for her, and And we're hoping to get to a place where, I mean, we want it to be a surprise, but I think that all of the characters at the end of our show make the decision that they feel is best for them. And that's where we tried to get to. We tried to honor each character and not just have one of them get shit on because that serves the other two characters better.
Right.
We wanted all of the characters to make the best decision for themselves.
You guys did such a great job of that, I have to say, because I was definitely on boo Team Kite Man. I was like, get this guy out of here. Thinking about from his introduction when he's naked on the bed to where he is now is an incredible arc. And so kudos to you guys for changing our minds about him. But I want to talk more about Harley and Ivy. You guys did a fantastic job this season, making them go from just friends to more than that. And I want to know, how did you decide to do that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it was definitely a discussion. We wrote these episodes between November of 2017 and February of 2019. So we weirdly, that we were finished with it before the show premiered, and we got to write them kind of in a vacuum. It's a weird thing. Some see it as a luxury. Others, not having that sort of feedback might seem like a detriment, but, we did it that way. What we had sort of to influence our decisions was just, the past body of work. That relationship existing in a romantic capacity, it's there in the comics. We felt like this is an interesting place to take it. Nothing is sort of sacred in this show, but I think that at its heart, it is a very, very inclusive show. And it felt important to us, the more we started talking about it, to be able to do that type of storytelling, to be able to be, representative and inclusive in ways that, it felt natural. So it was kind of a no-brainer once we had kind of locked in on how we would make that happen, and knowing that we had a path that felt organic, that to us didn't feel forced. And once we had figured that out, we just went for it.
I love it. I have to say, I love this episode when Harley gets home from her trip to Themyscira, and she's like, "So you guys want to go for drinks? 1 drink, 2 drink, so many drinks we forget about the last couple days." It's so good. I love how she's been processing this whole thing, and it's been a joy to see. So thank you for that.
You guys also have a show that is completely different and yet very similar to the show Young Justice. Very different in tone, but what I love is that both of your guys' shows are able to remix the DC universe in a way that we really haven't seen. And you guys can have characters die and can have characters change and do a lot of things that we don't often see in the continuous sort of DC Comics continuity. And I feel like a character that you guys did something with doesn't really have precedences, which is the Joker has also gone through this amazing transformation. Why was it important to have him grow as well? And do you think him and Bethany will last? And thank you for Bethany as well.
We love Bethany.
You'll get an answer to that at the end of the season. Our feeling was kind of like the Joker is in his bones the Joker, right? He's this like petulant man-child who, is hyper violent and also acts on impulse and is incredibly insecure. And that manifests itself in just how he behaves in everyday life. But, we were like, if he were to go through like some sort of changes and we would see him at least gain perspective on his life, just a little bit of perspective. Like, we don't want to change the Joker and make him a different kind of character because he's an amazing character. We felt like, it'd be fun to see this guy try to grapple with the idea that, maybe there is an even better way to live my hyper-violent, homicidal, lunatic life.
And that was Justina Machado from One Day at a Time as Bethany. And it was cool, like, being in the booth with her. It was originally written in Mexican Spanish. She's Puerto Rican descent, and she came in and she was like, let me tell you how this works. She changed. So that all of that stuff in Spanish is her kind of ad-libbing or sort of retrofitting it to a Puerto Rican character, which I thought was really cool. And then, so I was like, please translate this for me so I know how to report back.
Amazing. I know also that you guys have a set amount of swears that you can say per episode? Are the swears in Spanish, do they fall out of, is that a loophole? Because
That's
she really went
a
to town with
loophole.
those.
That's a loophole.
That's a loophole?
Yeah.
Yes. She swears hard, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay, I have to know, what kind of horrors did the Justice League see in the Book of Fables?
Well, the Brothers Grimm were it was a pretty apt name for their storytelling. So any really, really dark version of a Brothers Grimm story is exactly what they saw. They probably saw children being baked into pies and whatnot. It was like Tim Burton doing like a David Fincher 7 movie inside of that book.
Well, when we originally were breaking that episode, originally we were like, what if the whole episode is just the Justice League inside the book?
Oh,
and
man.
we're following him through the book. And it got like so dark and messed up that we were basically, because they don't have any power inside the book, right? Like they can't do anything. And so they're just like visible to these horrors. And we like doing weird one-off episodes, but we couldn't really figure out exactly how to break the story, how to make it work. But we did talk a lot about the horrors that they probably saw. And yeah, and I think it was like, part of it was like the monotony of this like uncanny valley mixed with like children's hymns happening at all times, to the point where it becomes this like torture where you just want to like blow your brains out. Like we were gonna that's what we figured that they were put through.
My pal Scott Porter did the voice of the Flash, and when the Flash comes out, he goes, too soft, too hard, never just right, never just right. What was he talking about? I kind of don't want to know. It's horrific. It is horrific.
Now I have a crazy question for you that is going to be very hard to answer. Besides Harley, what's your favorite character on the show?
Oh, for me, I think it's Ivy. I think she's a character kind of after my own heart. Cynic, not always a people person. I've said this ad nauseum, but when we pitched the show, it's like we always use Ferris Bueller and Cameron Fry as kind of like the elevator pitch, like quick version of a quick sketch of like Harley and Ivy's dynamic, with Harley as Ferris and Ivy as Cameron. And I'm such a Cameron in my real life. And yeah, and I also enjoy poetic cursing, and I think that Lake Bell, when she gets in the booth, I've said this too, is just like, she's like the potty mouth laureate of the show. She can curse in the most creative ways. She is the Maya Angelou of cursing, and I love that so much. So I'd go with Ivy.
I mean, I also love Ivy, so I won't say Ivy, but aside from Harley, I have such a soft spot for Bane. And I think that really boils down to just James Adonian. I think he is such a brilliant performer, and we realized that very early on and kind of allowed him to mess around as much as he wanted to. He ad-libs a lot. He's just an incredibly talented improviser. And he's created this Bane who is like this hulking maniac who is incredibly sensitive and thoughtful. Like, one of my favorite things is that he drives a Volvo, and he also he cat sat for his Aunt Linda's girlfriend when she was away. Like, he's still plugged into society, but then when he gets really upset, he's like irrational.
Yeah.
So I think James, just his performance allowed us to do that. I also love, I love all the performers on the show, but I also just like Chris Maloney as Commissioner Gordon.
Oh my
God.
I think is such a layered performance. I mean, Chris is an unbelievable actor. We worked with him lots of times. His Gordon there is no precedent for his Gordon, just like there was no precedent for that Bane, just also like what Ron Funches does with King Shark. Nobody had done those characters like that. And so they didn't have anything to build off of. And Maloney was just like, and Ron, same thing, was just like, here's my take. I'm going to go for it. And Pat directed, and Dean Laurie, our other co-creator, directed a lot of the voice acting in the show. And I think they really got those guys to just bring what makes them so special as performers.
If we get a third season, I think we're going to get to do a lot of interesting things with the GCPD in light of our current events. I think I've said this on Twitter, but I really would love to open up season 3 with just a Zoom call with the citizens of Gotham screaming bloody murder at Gordon.
That would be hysterical. My dream is I want action figures from this show so bad.
So do we.
Bad. I want action, and I want a Gordon action figure to come with the little Clayface hand. That's what I want his accessory to be.
And a mug too. He's got to have a mug with like whiskey in it.
Yeah, all of that stuff. But I'm like, you got to give me the Clayface hand. Last question for you guys. We just watched episode 11. Can you give us a tease, if you're able, about the next few episodes?
I think that we are trying to move things towards a throwdown that has emotional stakes and also actual like physical stakes for the world that we're in. I will also say that we frequently talked about how Breaking Bad would have their like big action set piece scene be in the penultimate episode of a season, and then the finale would kind of be like this sort of like emotional high stakes is in the finale episode. So, and we all really liked that. So I think when we were breaking it, we tried to kind of think about that. So I think you're going to see, you know, some of the series wrapped up in this next in episode 12, and then I think the larger emotional arcs wrapped up in episode 13.
We will get a definitive answer in terms of a love triangle. We're not going to do a cliffhanger. You will know going into season 3 that there is the ultimate couple will be revealed. So you will get closure on that.
I got chills.
I can't wait to see all the people that are going to be happy and all the people that are going to be mad about it. Okay, great.
And nothing in between.
Yeah.
Nothing in between.
All right, Justin and Patrick, this has been so much fun. Thank you for giving us an inside look into Harley Quinn. We so appreciate you being on the show today, guys.
Yes, that was awesome.
The rest of you out there, be sure to keep watching Harley Quinn on DC Universe. A brand spanking new episode drops this Friday. And as for us, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.